Here now, Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, member of the Senate Budget Committee. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Heather. Thanks for having me on.
That is a whole lot of dollar bills that we're talking about. In terms of the Supercommittee, is it going to take the involvement of President Obama to overcome this stalemate?
Well, Heather, part of the problem we're having here in Washington is President Obama has not been providing any leadership on this issue all year long. I mean, the budget he presented to Congress, it would have added $12 trillion to our nation's debt and deficit in the next 10 years. It lost 0 to 97 in the United States Senate. He hasn't pushed his party, the Democrats control the Senate, to even pass a budget in the Senate for over 2 years. So yeah, I mean, a little bit of leadership would go a long ways here in Washington.
But these are the same arguments that we heard way back when. Now we have, this November 23rd deadline looming. What is the holdup now? Is it just the same old, we're talking about taxes and entitlement spending, and where is there wiggle room?
Well, I think the holdup is the Democrats simply refuse to acknowledge the problem. And the problem is that we are spending too much money. I mean, the last 10 years, our federal government spent $28 trillion. Moving forward, what the debate is over is, according to President Obama, he wants to spend $46 trillion in the next 10 years. The House budget would spend 40, but we're not even close to that level. So we're arguing over spending $46 trillion, and within that context, we're looking at how do you save $1.2 trillion, or how do you reduce the rate of growth by $1.2 trillion. I sent a letter to the Supercommittee detailing about $1.4 trillion in pretty easy reductions of the rate of growth. They should have taken a look at that, passed that measure, and moved on and actually started seriously addressing the problem.
And what about the Bush-era tax cuts specifically? Would you be willing to waver on that?
Well, Heather, the number one component of a solution for our fiscal problem is economic growth. And the problem with increasing taxes, and that's what we're talking about, if we let those Bush tax cuts expire, we would increase taxes on an incredibly weak economy. And we have to have economic growth. That's how we're going to actually solve this problem. So that's why people on my side of the aisle just really don't want to be considering tax increases, because it harms economic growth. And that's the number one thing we have to try to promote around here.
And that's the fundamental difference between Democrats and Republicans when you talk about how to resolve this budget issue. I do want to ask you one more thing. Some lawmakers, this is just developing, they're pushing for a change in the automatic spending cuts that would kick into effect should no deal be reached. How do you feel about that?
I'll tell you, one of the reasons I voted against this debt ceiling agreement is, I saw really how meaningless it really was going to be. Because the sequestration, the cuts really weren't even going to occur till January 2013, and one Congress can't bind the hands of a future Congress. So I just didn't see it as a serious attempt. That's why I back something like cut, cap, and balance. And Heather, in the end, if we're really going to get our fiscal house in order, we are going to need a constitutional amendment that limits the size of government in relationship to our GDP. I think that's the best solution.
All right, well, thank you so much. And, if anything tells the story, it's that debt clock that we've been running next to you, because it was just ticking up the entire time we were speaking. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
There you have it.